The demonization of fat has been one of the most health damaging phenomena of recent times. And it's all based upon false premises and myths, essentially. So I'm going to talk about the cholesterol myth today, which is a topic that's really fascinated me over the last few years. So cholesterol, even though it's so demonized, is actually necessary for brain function as well as hormonal function. And it's also necessary to synthesize vitamin D within your body. And vitamin D, it's not really a vitamin, more of a hormone, and it's necessary for so many processes, and vitamin D has so many benefits. The list of benefits of vitamin D are pretty much endless, and it's essential to the human body. And saturated fats come into play here. Saturated fats raise cholesterol, and they are also needed for so many bodily functions, like brain health, hormonal function, immune system function, and a bunch of cellular function. The list of functions that need saturated fat to happen, that's a ridiculously long list as well. And saturated fat has been another thing that was demonized in that low-fat phenomenon, or the low-fat craze of the 1980s and the 1990s. And there's something called the French paradox with all of this. And it's based upon the French, how what they eat is higher in saturated fat than Americans, yet they have lower rates of heart disease and less heart attacks. So that's what is called the French paradox. And it's not really a paradox because cholesterol and saturated fat intake is kind of irrelevant in terms of heart disease and heart attacks. And I'll explain that. Heart disease is actually rooted in inflammation, as is most disease. So it's spurred, catalyzed by inflammation. Okay? You have to realize that so many of these chronic diseases are inflammation based and get worse due to inflammation. And trans fats are a big culprit of this. So trans fats are these artificial fats, like what you would find in margarine, for example. So people swapped out butter and started intaking margarine. And margarine actually has trans fats, and it's worse, and that's actually what causes more inflammation and causes the heart disease. So trans fats are pro-inflammatory, so you don't want to consume those. They are the artificial factory-created fats. All right? And then also, regarding blood clots and all of that, that is due to oxidized cholesterol. So not pure cholesterol, oxidized cholesterol. And oxidized cholesterol is the result of heating things like vegetable oils. So vegetable oils have very, very low smoke points, so they oxidize when cooked. And that oxidized cholesterol is severely damaging for arteries and heart health and all that, and it's very, very pro-inflammatory as well. And plus, all those vegetable oils, or most of them, are very pro-inflammatory in the first place. So, and then another contribution to heart disease is metabolic disorder, which is caused by the intake of additive sugar. So too much sugar intake, especially processed sugar, it causes metabolic dysfunction. And that is another factor in heart disease and things like that. And then you also have lack of exercise, which pretty much everyone agrees upon. You can't just sit on a couch all day and, think you're healthy. And lack of grounding as well. I put out a video on grounding last week. Grounding has so many health benefits, and health benefits regarding heart health and syncing up your hormones and blood pressure and everything. So that's another factor. There's a multitude of factors or a multitude of causes for every effect. It's never just one thing. It's like many, many things, but in different proportions that cause something. So, and I'll go a little woo-woo here too. Heart dis-ease is also said to be rooted in a blocked heart chakra. So if you're familiar with the chakras, or chakras, however you want to pronounce it, they are basically energy wheels that we all have. They're not third dimensional, but they are these energy vortexes that we all have, and we have 7 main ones. So a blockage in the heart chakra is where heart dis-ease manifests from, because all physical dis-ease has roots in the energetic realms. So, and that's also why men typically have more heart attacks. Like, I've never really heard of a woman that I know who's had a heart attack. So, because men are more closed off here, typically, right? And women are more open here. So, the paradigm of science that we're using right now and that we're confined to would have a hard time proving this kind of stuff, so you have to use your intuition, but it makes sense to me. Men are typically very blocked here, women are typically open here, and it's no surprise that men have more heart attacks. So that's something else to think about, but that's less provable with what we're working with. And that brings me to statins. Statin drugs they're prescribed to something ridiculous, like 1 in 4 Americans over the age of 45. So they're pretty ubiquitous in American culture. And they are based upon that false hypothesis of saturated fat, cholesterol is what causes heart disease. And it's a big lie. And statins actually do more harm than good. It's I don't know, it's just ridiculous how so many people are prescribed this, but they do more harm than good. So they lower cholesterol, which is the hypothesis. Lower cholesterol, lower your risk of heart disease and heart attacks. So they lower cholesterol by inhibiting the enzyme in your liver that produces cholesterol. And this enzyme is the same enzyme that produces CoQ10 in your body, and the same enzyme that produces ketones in your body. So CoQ10 it's responsible for so many cellular processes in the body. So if you're deficient in CoQ10, a lot of downstream dysregulation and dysfunction goes on when you don't have those adequate CoQ10 levels. So if CoQ10 is very necessary to have in your body. And ketones are another thing. So if you're not producing ketones, you're going to have a lot of downstream negative effects. And statins also reduce K2, vitamin K2 in your body, and that's another thing that is vitally important for a lot of processes. So here's the downstream effects of all this inhibition, of everything that statins block and reduce. So one is increased risk of diseases like cancer and diabetes. So it's not a good sign. And also because it's reducing cholesterol and things like that, and people who are on it probably fell for the whole low-fat phenomenon. So when you don't have adequate cholesterol going on, you're going to have neurodegenerative diseases, or the increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases, because you're starving your brain of what it needs. So statins are no bueno. And yeah, what else I got? That's about it. Like, so much of what we're sold is a lie, and all of this is being used to drug the population, and it's all a bunch of it's lies and deception. So do your research for yourself. Take your health back into your own hands. Form your own conclusions, and be healthy on a daily basis. Incorporate healthy routines on a daily basis. And don't fall for the myths. Don't fall for the lies. All right? Peace, peace. Much love and one love, baby.